Welcome to Catch a Buzz. I'm your host, Katie Rousseau. Cell phones have become a popular distraction across the country while driving. To learn more about this issue, I talked to Assistant Professor Robert Rosenberger from the School of Public Policy. Mr. Rosenberger, thank you so much for being here today.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. It's an honor. Well, now, along with teaching here at Georgia Tech, you also perform research outside of the school as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, that's right.
And your newest research has been on cell phone-related distractions while driving. Would you like to go into detail about why you think drivers zone out while they text or talk on the phone?
Yeah. So it seems to me that what's going on is, right, we have these technologies, we use them all the time, right? I mean, we get used to using them sort of all day. Right, your phone rings and you quick grab it and you're automatically on the phone, into phone mode, right? Same thing with texting. People can be texting while they're doing other things. So for me, the way I've been thinking about it is, okay, well, what are these relationships that we develop with these technologies? What's the type of relationship we need to have with the car? And what are the type of relationships that we have with things like the phone? And can these relationships fit together? And I think that, in my view, really the reason why we zone out when we're on the phone in the car is because we can get into that phone mode, the same phone mode that we'll get into when we're not driving the car, right? We can slip into it, kind of like a bad habit. And even though we're driving, right, even though you're supposed to be looking forward ahead as you're driving, your mind can go into the same place it goes into when you're on the phone and you're, say, by yourself in a room, right? And you're just occupied by the conversation, and it can slip in, right? That's how I've been thinking about it. That's sort of the new language I've been trying to develop to talk about what it means to be distracted when you're on the phone.
In your article, you said that also hand-free devices cause the same amount of distraction. Would you like to explain why you think that is?
I've been looking at this for years now, and it turns out these people in really the field of cognitive science have been studying this for more than a decade, and there's hundreds of studies at this point. And the main topic they've been looking at in the last decade or so has been hands-free phones. So there's all this empirical research that surprised me, and I think ends up surprising a lot of people, that says, yeah, actually a hands-free phone is just as distracting as a handheld phone, right? They'll put people in, say, driving simulators, right, and they'll look at, say, how many exits do they miss or something like that if they're talking on the phone. How much does their braking time change? Do they brake faster or harder? Do they put less space between them and the car in front of them? Different things that we can measure. And then over time they found that, this is a really consistent finding. A hands-free phone causes the same exact kinds of problems. What would cause that? Because that's a surprise. And I think it's a surprise to lawmakers, because the issue is this, right? What types of laws should we institute? What types of technologies might we want to ban for drivers while we're, say, going down the street, right? In Georgia, we've got a ban on texting while driving, right? And that's all. The question is, okay, well, why? What's the idea behind the law? And it seems like the idea is something like, well, if you take your hands off of the wheel, or if you take your eyes off of the road, then that's what distraction is. And texting is the worst for that, because you're taking a hand off the wheel and you're taking eyes off the road. That seems really intuitive. But then there's this surprising and very consistently found result where hands-free phones are causing the same kind of distraction as handheld phones. And it's like, well then, maybe it's not looking away from the road, and maybe it's not taking a hand off the wheel that's exclusively to blame for this distraction, for the sort of driving impairment that we have when we're on the phone. So what is it? Looking at the research that the cognitive scientists are doing, many of them will cast their findings in a certain way. The way they describe their findings is in terms of the limitations of our mind. How many things can you do at the same time and still do them well? And that seems to be the model. That's a model for talking about these data about people missing exits and things like that when on the phone. The idea is something like, these are too demanding tasks. So we got to convince people that they just can't do it, right? That their brains can't do this sort of thing. It's one way to think about it. I've been developing another way to think about it that I think is also consistent with the data. And that has to do more with habits. What are the types of relationships we develop with them over time? How do we get used to these things? What does it mean to get used to the phone and not have to think about it? Like, just pull it out and check your text and put it away because it's so automatic. What are the consequences or the side effects of having such an automatic relationship with these things. And I think that one of the side effects of having such an automatic, well-developed relationship with our phones is that they can lead us to be distracted while we're driving. So rather than say that the brain can't do it, I'm saying something like, yeah, maybe the cause is that this is a learned behavior. Like, we've learned this relationship with the phone, and it's habitual. And it's the sort of normalcy of it that's the problem. Now we're having a sort of normal relationship with the phone, and we get kind of drawn into it, right? And it's what occupies most of our attention. You're used to driving, and you start going into that same place you might go into if you were in the room by yourself, where not even on purpose, but just through habit. That's what you do when you're on the phone. And then maybe it's too late, right? When the driving suddenly changes, someone hits their brakes. I think that this is the danger.
And you also mentioned that you believe that talking on the phone and then having someone in the car with you are completely different experiences.
I do think.
Would you like to explain on that a bit?
Yeah. So this is a good question. This is one of the things that jump to people's minds right away, right? The idea is like, why would the phone be any different than another person, right? If someone else is sitting there in the car, then and you're talking to them, shouldn't that be as distracting as talking to someone who's on the phone? And I don't think so. Some of the results are mixed. The more recent studies are showing that the passenger conversation is not nearly as dangerous as a phone conversation, but it's not hundreds of studies. It's like a handful, and it's a sort of developing subtopic. I think there's two things going on. First thing is that the passenger is there in the car, and they're also looking at the road. And there's some empirical evidence for this, that the passengers are actually participating in the driving in a way. They're looking out the windshield, and sometimes they're actively participating. Like, there's the exit coming up, or the ambulance is coming up behind us, right? When you're looking around and you both hear the sirens or something. Even more than that, there's some evidence saying that the passenger will modulate their conversation. They'll sort of slow down their conversation when they recognize that the driving is getting more difficult. They'll take on more of the burden of the conversation, sort of almost automatically. I think another reason is that when you're there with someone in the car, I think it kind of anchors you somehow in the space of the car. It's harder to forget that you're in a car when there's a person there. Where the phone conversation, I think, pulls you out of that context. Right? That conversation is not happening in the car, somehow happening just in cyberspace, somehow happening in your mind, happening whatever that means. That's what I've been thinking.
And lastly, is there anything you would like to say to tech students that do talk on the phone or text while driving?
People are not very good at judging whether or not they are distracted by the phone, right? If we keep finding this really funny thing that people will even recognize that other people are bad, right? It's as bad as this. They'll recognize other people are bad at using the phone while driving, and might even say, yeah, we should probably even ban this. It's dangerous. But not me. I'm the exception. And the thing I want to say to tech students is, you're probably not the exception. And at the very, very least, you are probably not a good judge of whether or not you're good at using the phone while driving. Just because you think you are, that's no indication of whether you're a good driver while you're on the phone.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching Catch a Buzz. I'm Katie Rousseau. Until next time, drive safe.